Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're getting into something that seems like it's everywhere you turn, AI, but with a twist. We aren't talking algorithms designing websites or writing poems. No, we're going way more blue collar with it.
It's interesting, isn't it? You always hear about AI taking jobs, but it's always, like you said, the stuff everyone thinks you need a fancy degree for.
Exactly. But what about construction workers, mechanics, electricians? Is AI coming for their jobs too? You send over a bunch of articles, research, all sorts of stuff on this, and let's just say some of it is seriously wild.
Well, it really gets you thinking because it's not as simple as, oh, robots are going to build houses now. AI is good at very specific stuff,
Yeah.
right?
It's not like the Terminator's going to be laying bricks tomorrow.
Huh, no. But think about it. AI is great at tasks that are repetitive, follow a pattern, and are driven by data.
Okay, so that's your robots on the assembly line, stuff we've kind of already seen.
Right. But it goes further. Autonomous tractors, robots that can help lay bricks with incredible precision. It's already happening.
So when do we get to the robots taking orders at the drive-thru?
You're closer than you think, seriously. There was this one article you sent.
Wait, was it the one about Flippy?
Yeah. Flippy the robot chef.
I gotta admit, when I saw that, I was blown away, like a robot that flips burgers. It's too much.
But when you think about it, the fast food industry makes sense, right? High turnover, need things done fast in the same way every time. It's practically made for this kind of thing.
It's like the perfect storm for automation.
Exactly. And one of the articles even said that almost 40% of those jobs could be gone in the next 10 years, all because of automation. Crazy.
40%,
Yeah.
that's a huge chunk of jobs. It really shows how big this whole thing is getting.
Yeah.
I mean, 40%, that's like everyone you know who works fast food, almost half of them out of a job. That's got to be scary for some people.
It is. And look, the articles you sent, they don't shy away from that, but they also made a point that I think gets lost sometimes.
What's that?
We get so caught up in robots taking jobs, we forget
Wow.
that it's not that easy. There are tons of things these systems still can't do, even with AI.
Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom then. What are some of the things AI can't do? Laying brick in a hurricane, maybe?
Well, that's the thing, right? Dexterity. AI is amazing at precise movements, but only when it knows exactly what to expect. You need a plumber who can work in tight spaces, an electrician rewiring a whole building. That's not something you can just program.
Because every job site is different, every house, it's all unique in a
Well,
way, right?
exactly. And that's just one thing. Think about all the rules and regulations around this stuff.
Oh, right. Like you can't just have a robot doing electrical work if it hasn't passed an inspection or whatever, right?
It's way more complicated than that, but you've got the idea. Those rules were made for people, and until they figure out how AI fits in, well, it's a roadblock.
So even if a robot could do your wiring, it might not be allowed to, at least not yet. But isn't there another side to this? I feel like whenever people talk about robots and jobs, it always comes down to like the human factor.
100%. We can't pretend that people aren't anxious about this stuff. It's their livelihood we're talking about.
Yeah, like, is a robot going to take my job?
Yeah.
And if it does, then what? What happens to me? It's scary.
It's a huge change, and change is unsettling. But one thing that really resonated with me from the articles you shared is that this doesn't have to be a robots versus humans situation.
There's that us versus them thing again, yeah.
Right. But it's more about figuring out how we can use these technologies to make our jobs better, to help us do things we couldn't do before. It's about adaptation.
Adaptation, yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like every time you open a magazine or scroll through the news, it's all adapt, adapt, adapt. But I get it. Things are changing fast. So when we talk about adapting to AI, especially in these blue-collar jobs, what are we actually talking about?
Well, one thing that all the articles you sent really hammered home was that we need to change how we think about AI. Instead of looking at it like this threat, we got to start seeing it as a tool.
Okay, but what does that look like in like the real world? How does a construction work, for example, go from swinging a hammer to, I don't know, programming a robot to do it for him?
Think about it this way. Right now, you got a crew, they spend hours, days even laying bricks. But what if, instead of replacing them entirely, you have an AI system that can do the heavy lifting, the repetitive stuff?
So the robot lays the bricks, but you still need a person to like supervise it, make sure it's doing it right.
More than that even. Think about the skills that opens up. Now that construction worker, they're not just muscle. They need to know how to operate that system, troubleshoot it, maybe even do some basic programming.
So it's upskilling, not just replacement. That makes a lot more sense. But it also feels like this goes way beyond just individual jobs. Reading through all this stuff, I kept thinking about the bigger picture.
Because it is bigger, right? The articles you sent, they all kind of danced around the same idea. If AI is as big as everyone says, and it really does change how we work, what happens to the economy?
Whoa, yeah. Like, if no one needs to work because robots are doing everything, how do people make money? How do we pay for stuff?
And those are the million-dollar questions. Some of the articles even talked about, like, universal basic income.
Wait, you mean where everyone gets paid just for existing? I've heard about that.
It's a whole other can of worms for sure. But that's the point, right? AI isn't just changing jobs, it could change the whole system.
This is seriously making my head spin. I need a minute to process all this.
It's a lot, and we've just scratched the surface.
That's the truth. But I think the big takeaway here, and this is for everyone listening, is that this is happening. AI is already changing how things work, even for those jobs that seem, I don't know, untouchable.
100%. And if there's one thing I want people to walk away with, it's this. Pay attention, ask questions, and don't be afraid to learn new things.
Because the robots aren't coming for our jobs. They're coming to change them.
Exactly.
Well said. A huge thank you to you for breaking all this down for us and all of you for joining us for another deep dive. Keep those brains buzzing because we'll be back soon with another topic that's sure to get you thinking. Until then, keep exploring.